Hello Wastrels, cartoony gentleman here, and welcome to Caedo's Countdowns. These countdowns will be jumping into the strongest and most awesome items in Fallout 4, starting with rifles, which does include energy rifles and shotguns thanks to rifleman and commando perks covering so many options. You'll find lame jokes peppered in with stats and details on how these perform, and these are a mixture of ranking by damage, availability, and my own personal favorites. If you don't find a weapon you're thinking of on this list, make your case and tell us where it is in the comments. If you've enjoyed the stuff I've produced in the past, you'll know that I've made tons of guides for Fallout, so not only will I be sharing the weapon details, but also how you can get them. Mild DLC and main story spoilers ahead. So let us get into 10 of the best lead launching, cranium cooking, sometimes silly rifles in Fallout 4. You might recall the railway rifle was one of a handful of craftable weapons introduced in Fallout 3 that allow you to become a serious conductor of pain. A pain conductor, if you will. Now, the railway rifle has appeared here and there in Fallout 4, closely associated with who else? The railroad, or the railway rifle from the railroad, like my failed recording said. While you don't have to craft it yourself this time, that's left to Tinker Tom, there are some modifications that can be applied to the railway rifle. I wouldn't say modifications are necessary though, thanks to the innate limb damage bonus these rifles have, as well as the crazy high base damage. Arguably, the most important feature is intact. The railway rifle will still pin maimed body parts to walls just like the classic, as well as sound a train whistle when reloading. You will find the railway rifle most effective at mid to close range due to the travel time of the railway spikes, and using VATS of course does help ensure that you'll hit your target. While recoverable from bodies, railway spikes may still be a chore to acquire early on, since the majority of city vendors sell them in handfuls. If you have finished up the Automatron quest, however, and unlock the Eyebot pod, or randomly encounter one, you can use that to track down some more railway spikes. I've explained why the railway rifle is awesome, so let's go find one. Even though railway rifles start to appear pretty readily in the hands of railroad agents and can sometimes be sold by Tinker Tom midway through the main story, there are a couple of lootable locations as well. To get the railway rifle at any level, you'll be looking for Big John's Salvage, located northeast of the West Roxbury Township. This is a junkyard fortress taken over by super mutants, so prepare accordingly. After you have cleared the area, you'll want to find a generator near the front gate that has a wire running all the way into this blue train car. Turning on the switch will allow you access into the secret bunker within this train car, where you'll find a sad end to Big John's family, but also a fully operational railway rifle straight ahead after you enter. Do you remember how incredibly powerful combat shotguns in Fallout 3 were? Do you remember the terrible shotgun you can relieve from Smiling Jack's cold dead hands in Evergreen Mills? Well, the spiritual successor of that very shotgun can be found here in Fallout 4 in another prominent raider outpost even. This shotgun has taken the form of Le Fusil Terribles, or the terrible gun in French. This named legendary comes with the violent effect, which increases both damage and limb damage of the weapon by 25%, but has the trade-off of a ton of recoil. The maximum possible mitigation for the terrible donkey kick from this gun is with a suppressor, long ported and shielded barrel, and recoil compensating stock. None of these come pre-modded to this weapon, and that's on brand. It's gotta be a little terrible to the player too. Even with the modifications I suggested, this is kind of just like putting stockings on that metaphorical donkey, and it'll still make your character headbang like they're listening to the Fallout Brotherhood of Steel soundtrack. The ultimate counter for this much recoil is of course just using VATS. Even with the recoil business though, don't misunderstand, this thing hits hard once you're in effective range and is a treat to use in ruins that have tight corridors. Not only are you messing things up in close range situations, but you've got that limb damage bonus too, so aim for the legs and watch them drop. To get your hands on Le Fusil Terribles, you'll need to brave the raider settlement of Libertalia. This is the recognizable city of boat and ship wreckage to the northeast of Boston Airport. In order to get the shotgun, you'll be taking on a gauntlet of raiders, turrets, and planks, and take the gondola or swim to the largest piece of wreckage where the raider leader resides. Climb up to the top and enter the captain's quarters, and dead ahead, Le Fusil Terribles will be sitting upon a yellow crate, showing up conveniently before you face off with the leader. Thanks to the next-gen update to Fallout 4, we got quite a few items to play with, including the Flakker. This named legendary Chinese grenade rifle is currently the only long-range weapon with a guaranteed kneecapper effect, which gives the weapon a 20% leg cripple chance, a cripple chance that works on pretty much everything. The next closest is Sergeant Ash, but that's a flamethrower and old news, because we've got incinerators now. There's a few weird things about the Flakker, first of which is its acquisition, which we'll get to in a minute. Second, and I hope I get your help with this too, the Flakker comes with something called the 40mm Nuka receiver, and will only take 40mm Nuka grenades with this modification. This is an ammo type I simply cannot find anywhere in the game, nor could I find a way to craft it. This ammo does exist in the game's files at least, and I consoled some into my inventory to play around with it. It's like a slightly weaker, faster firing Fat Man with a kneecapper effect. The Nuka rounds even whistle like mini nukes do. I just wanted to draw attention to this in case one of you stumble across some 40mm Nuka ammo, because I'd really like to know if it's acquired through normal gameplay. It would be totally rude of me if I brought up a completely unusable weapon, so rest easy, you can change out the Nuka receiver for the standard one that takes normal 40mm grenades. These rounds are stronger than frag grenades and can be fired much further, with VATS also wonderfully accounting for the minor projectile arc. If you've got a crowd you need to clear quickly, the Flakker will do that and possibly kneecap the survivors for a quick follow-up. For something this powerful, keeping ammo on hand for the Flakker is a bit of a chore and should be treated like its heavier launcher counterparts. Know that vendors such as Cleo in Good Neighbor, Arturo in Diamond City, Aaron in the Nuka World Market, and Ronnie Shaw at the Castle can occasionally sell handfuls of 40mm grenades at the very least. The availability of ammo will still force you to use this sparingly, but man is it great to have a grenade rifle in Fallout 4. Getting the Flakker comes from choosing chaos and violence in the next-gen quest known as When Pigs Fly. In this quest, you'll be pointed to a wasteland trader by the name of Suggs at his garage in Cambridge. If you head there and have a look at his terminal in the back, you'll learn that his business partner has gone missing along with some schematics. This will take you to Monsignor Plaza, where a new rival to Suggs has set up shop, selling piggy bank mines and launchers. The note here will lead you back to a rooftop overlooking Suggs' shop, with the rival posted up ready to take out Suggs himself. After removing the issue and recovering some schematics, you can head back to Suggs' garage where he'll be attacked by a couple more mercs. To get the Flakker, Suggs must die. I guess the designer just wanted to give you a reward if you fired a piggy bank bomb into the garage, but after that the Flakker will appear on Suggs' corpse. If you choose not to kill Suggs and simply save him from the attackers, he'll still reward you with a Chinese grenade rifle, but it will have the penetrating legendary effect and does not come with a 40mm Nuka receiver. Suggs being alive though could be treated as a reward too, because he is another source of ammo and makeshift weaponry. I haven't appealed too terribly much to VATS critical builds, have I? Well, this one's for you, critical bankers. Righteous Authority is one of the easiest weapons to acquire early game and comes with the Lucky effect. Lucky doubles your critical shot damage and fills your critical meter 15% faster when firing in VATS. Now, Paladin Dan's may be outstanding, but he sure knows his stuff when it comes to energy weaponry and putting the enemy in their place. Who he determines as an enemy may be questionable, but it's hard to argue with the results, leaving so many ash piles in his wake that you'd think Dan's runs a crematorium as a side gig. Better mod descriptions tells me that the Photon Agitator Receiver puts another 200% bonus to your critical damage along with the legendary effect, so I guess that makes the critical bonus 300%? I don't really have the numbers to tell you how this comes out damage-wise, but it's big laser damage, numbers good. The Righteous Authority will carry you through most of the game, especially if you build towards luck and your associated weapon perks. Let's talk about how easy this is to obtain. I've implied it already with my lame jokes, but this weapon is rewarded to the player from Paladin Dan's after the quest Call to Arms. You can begin this quest when you head to Cambridge, which is south of the Corvega factory in Lexington. Once you're in the vicinity of the Cambridge police station, the quest will begin with Dan's and his squad defending against ferals. You can help them out or just watch until all the feral ghouls die, and Dan's introduces himself and asks the Soul Survival to go with him to ArcJet Systems for a transmitter to get their radio up and running. The rest is a cakewalk, because whether or not you have power armor yet, Dan's is already kitted out and feels like he's escorting you rather than the other way around. Descend into ArcJet Systems, retrieve the component, and at the end of Call to Arms, Dan's will give you the Righteous Authority. Tommy gun! Next up is a submachine gun you'll get so much life out of. Well, maybe it's better to say you'll take so much life out of other things, some you don't even mean to. A proper term for how this named explosive Thompson operates. If you spent much time in the Fallout 4 discourse at all, you've likely heard of Spray and Pray being one of the best options for early and mid-game due to availability, cost, and power. Why is it so powerful? Well, say you're a Soul Survivor with a few ranks of the Commando perk, and you've pumped some points into Demolition Expert as well. You'll be getting bonuses from both of these perks with the Spray and Pray, since the explosive legendary effect is boosted by Demolition Expert. For you stealthy Soul Survivors too, this often appears with a suppressor when you purchase it for around 3,000 caps. There's one glaring downside which comes along with any of the explosive legendary weapons, and that is the collateral damage. You would think NPCs are used to a little shrapnel now and again in the Boston Wastes, but unfortunately, if you use this around friendlies, your likelihood of them getting caught in the blast radius is annoyingly high. Companions don't seem to mind as much, but I've managed to invoke the wrath of Diamond City guards just by trying to help them with the nearby mutants, so I suggest keeping a non-explosive weapon handy for these kinds of situations. Speaking of Diamond City, on your first approach to the Great Green Jewel, you might see a little twitchy traveling merchant by the name of Cricket out front. If you don't encounter her, simply fast traveling to and from Diamond City should result in her appearing. Once you find Cricket and open up her shop inventory, you should see Spray and Pray under weapons for, like I said, around 3,000 caps. Occasionally, watching foes melt off their skeletons into a puddle of jade gelatin has always been a fun payoff throughout the Fallout series, from Fallout 1 all the way into Fallout 4 and beyond. For that reason, I think it's worth mentioning Experiment 18A. Another reason is that I needed to replace an entry that just didn't feel very satisfying to use. Sorry, Justice enjoyers. I think Experiment 18A is meant for those who've been holding on to their plasma cartridges just waiting for the right weapon to drop from legendary enemies, and that day never coming. Fortunately, I suppose, this named legendary has the rapid effect by default, which boosts the fire rate by 25% and the reload speed by 15%. This weapon seems to frequently spawn with an automatic receiver and sets itself up to melt through enemies just as quickly as it melts through your ammo reserves. Experiment 18A can of course be modified to suit a semi-automatic or even a handgun build thanks to how modular energy weapons are, so the preferred modifications are purely up to your tastes. If you're deciding to use this as is, however, it lends itself gracefully to the damage per second commando builds who have a lot of ammunition. To obtain Experiment 18A, there's a couple of requirements, the first and the most prominent being the main quest. You'll need to have reached the quest Institutionalized, where you gain access to the Institute. Once you have gotten in, and provided you've been playing nice with them, the requisitions officer in here will be selling the Experiment 18A for approximately 5,500 bottle caps. And the shop here is directly in front of you when you teleport in. Bring Adam's glow wherever you go with the Kiloton Radium Rifle. This radium rifle with the explosive legendary effect has everything you need to make a human's day awful. It's like the Spray and Pray with extra spice. As with other weapons that deal radiation damage, sadly the majority of mutated creatures in the Commonwealth and beyond have resistance to or complete immunity to radiation. So something like this isn't as effective as you would want against them. In spite of this, just like the Spray and Pray, you can invest in the Demolition Expert perk to up the damage of the explosive effect as a means to counteract this trade-off. Of course, the Rifleman and Commando perks help too, depending on the receiver you've chosen for the Kiloton rifle. The reason I mention making human days awful specifically is that raiders, gunners, and other hostile scavengers will have their max HP reduced, just like the player, when you first start firing this rad rifle into them. This means that if they try to heal themselves with stims, they'll pretty much stop being effective. Irradiating human enemies works against the legendary health recovery that they have too. Once you take down half of a legendary raider's health bar, they won't recover HP because you've filled that half with radiation. Long story short, this rifle is still powerful and is a pretty substantial upgrade from the spray and pray. One of the odd things that seems to happen with this weapon is that it appears to only come with standard modifications, leaving you to pull ones you want off of existing radium rifles, or just get some ranks in both gun nut and science yourself to modify it. Either way, there's a bit of an investment needed to get the most you can out of this weapon over others on this list. The payoff though, if I may be so bold, is pretty rad and a blast. In your search for the Kiloton Radium Rifle, we'll be going to the Far Harbor expansion for this one. You can start Far Harbor's quest after completing Getting a Clue via radio signal from Valentine, or just head to the northernmost part of the map on the coast and meet with the Nakano family to find their daughter in Far Harbor. After arriving in Far Harbor, you'll be looking for the Children of Atom settlement known as the Nucleus. Showing up at the Nucleus, which is home to slightly less aggressive Children of Atom, you'll have to prove yourself to the guards by completing the quest Visions in the Fog to gain entry. Afterwards, you'll have the freedom to come and go, provided you didn't start a war with them, and Brother Kane at the far end of the hangar will be selling the Kiloton Radium Rifle for surprisingly cheap, around 1,300 caps. Harnessing the power of lightning is always a fun way to dispatch foes. To that end, we get the Tesla rifle thanks to Automatron. Since it's quite easy for all of you to immediately think of some one-liners or puns related to electricity, I'm going to limit myself to one bad pun and let you do the rest in the comments. So, when you get your hands on a Tesla rifle, most of its forms are set up to fire electric arcs into your foes, or even the ground, and jump to the next closest target. Default setup for the Tesla rifle is a semi-automatic barrel that performs adequately if you're not interested in modifying it further. When the bolt jumps to another target, it appears to do only a fraction of the original damage, but zapping two foes in one bolt makes an efficient application of the single fusion cell per shot. One could even call it a great zapplication. Not that you should. Some more creative fun comes out of the Tesla rifle once you do start modifying it. If you're more of a VATS user, try the charging barrels, as this will fire fully charged each time when hitting in VATS. If you're more of an analog shooter and have lots of fusion cells, maybe the automatic barrel will be more your speed. If you enjoy just tons of arcs of electric energy all at once, try the charging shotgun barrel. The charging lob barrel seems to be the least helpful of each of these possible modifications, since the whole arcing effect is removed in favor of whatever this is. Again though, the beauty of the Tesla rifle is your options and its ammo efficiency. Aside from that last modification, the rest are all solid. I am glad that this is a powerful entry because there's a bit of effort needed to acquire this one. To get your hands on the Tesla rifle, you'll need to begin the Automatron quest called Mechanical Menace, where you pick up a caravan distress signal and meet the only survivor, who happens to be the robot companion Ada. Finding out who's behind the robot attacks in the Boston Wastes is part of your main goal, but about partway through the main quest of Automatron, you'll be sent to the Fort Hagen satellite array during headhunting, where you'll need to descend into the Rust Devil base to recover something. On your way to this MacGuffin, you'll also cross paths with Ivy, a power armor-clad leader of the Rust Devils who is wielding the only Tesla rifle you'll find, wearing some Tesla T60 pieces to match. Take Ivy out and you'll be well rewarded with powerful gear, including the Tesla rifle. Have you ever wondered if limb crippling effects apply to headshots? After all, in a biological sense, limbs only count as the bits of the body that stick out with graspy fingies and little piggies, right? What about the brainy bits? The Last Minute is a named Gauss rifle that has the crippling legendary effect, which says the weapon does 50% more limb damage. This is why my poorly educated question has been asked. Seeing as this is a precision weapon, why wouldn't you aim for the part where the brain should be? Something that isn't readily apparent though is that limb damage and HP damage are separate. When you look at your enemy target in VATS, you'll see their main health bar up top and small bars for each body part. Those little bars are what the crippling effect applies to, not the big health bar. If the engagement is going to be long, crippling the legs of additional enemies will be much easier with the Last Minute. But since we're dealing with a Gauss rifle here, you'll hit ridiculously hard with a fully charged shot regardless. In short, all you need to know is that this is an already powerful weapon with a limb damage improvement in a guaranteed location that does require a few steps to be available. In order to get your hands on the Last Minute, you need to first help out the Minutemen by retaking the castle. Then, sometime after taking independence, approaching Preston again will start the quest Old Guns, where you'll meet Ronnie Shaw, a Minuteman veteran, at the castle to get the armory back up and running. This is a short quest where you travel underneath the castle with Ronnie, emerge in the armory, and gain the artillery blueprints to create them at your settlements. Once she's satisfied with you young whippersnappers helping, and the quest completes, during vendor hours, Ronnie Shaw will be available as a weapons merchant, and sell you the last minute for roughly 8,000 caps. The final entry is actually 2 weapons, and a fine example of why I dislike the legendary system replacing traditional uniques. I rant about this with my pal Bad Company Sarge ad nauseum, so if you like that kind of thing, the Pipcast 3000 is linked below. Furious as I am about this, Furious is also one of the most powerful legendary effects in the game. The Furious effect increases a melee weapon's subsequent hits on the same target, with seemingly no cap to the damage increase. So why am I talking about a melee effect? As of the introduction of the Nuka World expansion, there are 2 named legendary handmade rifles that have the Furious effect, and yes, they're as mental as you're imagining. The handmaids I'm talking about are the Splattercannon and the Problem Solver. The only real difference between these weapons are the modifications they come with and how they're acquired. If you get one of these, or even both of them, you can be assured that anything in your path will be shot to ribbons, provided you're a good shot. You're a good shot, right? If you're looking for a test of efficacy, find a Mirelurk Queen or a Super Mutant Behemoth, and see how many shots it takes to melt them down compared to anything else in your arsenal. You'll see that these were made to solve the problem of meat shields in Bethesda games. Keeping these supplied with 7.62 is the one downside, since ammo types being introduced much later tend to not have retroactive appearances. So before heading out to shoot up the wasteland with your new handmaids, Nuka Town Market is the main place you'll be able to pick up this ammo in bulk. If you're looking for modifications to pull off other handmade rifles, there are plenty lying around each of the Raider headquarters that you can just grab because you're the overboss now, and technically everything is yours. I'm sure I've sold you on these by now, so let's get to the locations of these Furious firearms. You can start Nuka World's quest by hitting level 30, or just heading to the Nuka World Transit Center at any time. It's where the freeway goes off to the west of the map. After you finish the gauntlet and manage to get into the park, look for the Nuka Town Market and you'll find Aaron Corbett, selling the Splattercannon for a whopping 20,000 caps. You will be seeing more of him though if you use these weapons, because he also does sell hundreds of 7.62 ammo. Buying the Splattercannon should be a fallback plan though, as the other one is acquired a bit differently. The less expensive method of getting yourself a Furious handmade is by using some aggressive dialogue against one of the leaders of the Raider gangs. When you first show up in Nuka Town, USA, Gage will send you out to meet with the leaders of each gang. One of these leaders is Mason, Alpha of the Pack. When you speak with him, ensure that you are being as aggressive as possible, choosing the dialogue option on the right-hand side every time, which will reduce the difficulty of the final one when it gives you a charisma check. Grape Mentats, of course, can help you out with this, but you can also just save and reload until you pass it. Succeed, and Mason will acknowledge your alpha status and hand you the Problem Solver out of respect and maybe a little bit of fear. Is there a rifle you think belongs on this list? Do you have a horrible pun relating to the Tesla rifle? Leave them in the comments. If you like what I do here, please do whatever you see fit to show it. Among the ways you can is by supporting on Patreon, like the explosive supporters on screen now, including Wasteland Legends, Sven, and Rose. I'm Caedo, thank you so much for watching, and may you wander the Commonwealth like you own it.